You don't want surprises after you're married. Those things do need to surface before you get married. And can the relationship handle it? And if it can't handle it before you get married, it's going to be a lot harder and it will likely continue into the marriage.
See marriages that end up in divorce and you're like, they never fought. Or the kids are like, we didn't see our parents fight. Well, there was deep resentment there, but they had just learned they were both silent. Yep. We're not going to engage it. We're not going to deal with it. We're not going to confess it, repent, heal. We're just going to go harbor this.
There are things that have to be said that have probably never been said out loud to someone else. And when you can do that and it's met with grace and empathy and the gospel, then there's something really beautiful that's going to set the tone for your entire marriage.
The beauty of marriage is to recognize they're not going to ever be like you. You're going to be two different people with two different preferences, ways of doing life, ways of thinking about things. And the beauty of marriage is learning how to together embrace that there's difference, respect the difference, learn to live with one another amongst the difference, and to appreciate the difference.
Ever wondered why a relationship that started off amazing suddenly gets so hard, then this episode is for you. Also, if you are addicted to the sparks and butterflies, which I know some of y'all are, you have to tune in today because we are talking all about it. Specifically, we're talking about how love is forged, not found. If you're wondering what I mean by that, you have to listen to today's episode.
Okay, so we got Gabe and Rebekah Lyons in the house. What's up, guys?
Hey.
Good to be
Hey,
here.
guys.
Thank you guys for coming. So usually I like to brag and flex, and there's a lot to brag and flex for you guys. Instead, I'm just going to ask you, what is one thing you're most proud of in your life today? And that'll be your introduction. How's that?
Great. Man, I'm proud. This will feel like obvious, but 28 years of marriage. I mean, for Rebekah and I, it's just been almost 3 decades of knowing each other, and, to stay married, to love and enjoy marriage at this stage feels more rare amongst a lot of conversations we have with people. So I'm proud of that.
Yeah. For us sticking with it, and that we have an offspring who's getting married in 3 months or 2 months. So the fact that our kids want to get married, that's a good sign. Yeah. It's all about I think I'm proud of the fact that whatever our kids learn is always, it's caught, it's not taught. Mm-hmm. So what they watch, how they see us model, and they've watched us have fights, they've watched us repair. But that's given them a vision of what they want. And we could tell them all day long, here's what you have to do to be successful in a relationship, but we've had to live it. And so I'm proud of us just continuing to go back and do it again and just keep going. Yeah. Persevere.
Yeah. And marriages are either dying, surviving, or thriving. How long would you say of those 28 years has it been maybe thriving and healthy and you guys really enjoying it versus some years just having to just stick it out, right? And survive.
Oh, I would love to hear your percentage on this. I'm so curious. I'm even thinking what percentage would be thriving or what was the other part? Just
dying, surviving, or thriving.
Surviving. I think we were surviving or thriving. Yeah.
Dying, probably some small percentage, but a percentage was time where it was man, this is not working. This isn't going well. This is not what I'd hoped it would be. Rebekah's expectations probably not met with me, and vice versa. But a lot of time surviving, and I bet a lot of couples probably feel that, that you're navigating new seasons. Rebekah and I have 4 distinct seasons. When we look at our 28 years that we went through, it was almost every 7 years, some new big moment, traumatic, some big change in our life, a move, career thing, kids, that we had to re-navigate what was our marriage going to be like during this next season. And so I think those moments felt like survival. But then towards the end of those seasons, it's wow, we figured this out and we're thriving and we're in the groove. These last few years, the thriving's happening more. I mean, it's happening way more than anything else, because we feel like we've learned one another and we've learned how to repair quicker. And a lot of times the reason we're just surviving is because we're not unified in our marriage. We're kind of on our own trying to fight it out, figure it out. But when we've got repair happening and we're unified, then even going through tough things means your marriage could still thrive through difficult seasons.
Yeah. There's a season of our marriage that Gabe, for me, called the lost decade. So I don't know what that says about me in that decade, but that's 10 of 28. And And it does feel like every major transition we had, I would say the first half of that season, we were surviving. Because whether we had a special needs child 3 years in, I would say we grieved and transitioned and survived for probably the first 5 years, because then we had his brother 2 years later, his sister 2.5 years after that. And that was just kind of like getting through it, and not that we didn't love parenting, but we just were rookies. We had no idea how to parent a kid with different abilities. And then having 2 and 3, and then launching a new thing that we couldn't explain to people, a nonprofit, and leaving our secure job, like a lot of risk requires some survival skills anyways. Then we moved to New York. I get panic disorder the first half of our time in Manhattan. We were for sure surviving, barely. And then coming here, now we've been here 11, 12 years. And so Gabe's like, the last few years we've been thriving because we haven't moved again or started a new nonprofit. So I think it's really contingent on the amount of risks you take and the unity you have in them. And as long as like we both agreed to this, we want to do this, but we're not doing it well because we just don't know what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And it just takes time to learn those things and have grace for each other because we're both rookies in whatever that season looks like.
I love this. So we're talking about 28 years in marriage. Let's go back to when you guys first met, because I know by reading some of your book that you guys had like kind of an initial connection. And so the spark is something we've talked about before on this podcast. It's a very real thing. I mean, so many people out there are looking for instant chemistry. And I understand because we're fed it. Like you see it in rom-coms, in Disney. You want that initial moment. Even we have a dating personality quiz. I score in my unhealthy state in dating as the hopeless romantic. So I am the absolute like picture perfect example of wanting that fairy tale story and looking for that spark. So I want to hear about how that played out in y'all's relationship and how you guys think it should be prioritized for people dating now.
So our first spark, it was freshman year of college, and Rebekah and I found ourselves in a evening hang with a bunch of people. We were all freshmen. I was a freshman. She was a sophomore, but first evenings at college campus, and there was this barbecue, cookout, games, whatever. Yeah. And Rebekah and I stayed up most of the night laughing, goofing off.
Like,
I don't know.
Did not kiss at all. And all our friends were like crashed on the floor because school hadn't started yet, so we didn't have to be on campus quite yet. We were at a school where there was no co-ed, anything at night especially. But we were all just like this big cookout that turned into like everyone's hanging out, and we were giggling like idiots at 4 a.m. And so the spark of that was just that we were having so much fun. I would say the chemistry was just that we just thought the same things were funny. Yeah. It wasn't romantic at all.
But then it was like 4 years later. We both dated other people. Yeah. We had very serious relationships.
I got engaged. Somebody
she
else.
was engaged.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that.
So this is called a spark interrupted.
Wow.
He was about to propose. Yeah.
Okay. He's about to propose.
To somebody else.
Doesn't. And then you guys go 4 years and you saw each other.
Yeah. We were in the same group of friends. We had, but
I wasn't about to propose after that night. What she's describing is we both had very serious relationships that were, potentially moving towards marriage. That got interrupted. We made some decisions to stop that, not for each other, but it just didn't feel like that was what God had for us.
Yeah.
And then there was a chance, and then the spark came back.
I think there was a bit of a spark, though, when I came back to college, and you're like, why are you here? Because you just graduated early, and you're supposed to be getting married. And I'm like, oh, it's fine. We're figuring things out. So I think when we got, 4 years later, it's almost like we kind of noticed each other in a different way. But it wasn't romantic still. It was just, we had a lot of similar friends, like circle of friends. And you guys have, when you get with your people and you're always having fun and then, but we're also kind of like, I'm recovering from a broken engagement and he's not sure if he's ready to end things. So it just got a little weird. But in general, we always were friends. I mean, that was a big thing. We always had fun. It did feel effortless. And I don't know what part of the spark is like romance or attraction or just like ease. Yeah. Like I feel comfortable with you and we can just be ourselves and we're not feeling like we have to edit ourselves. We could just be dumb and fun and whatever. Yeah. And so I think that was part of our spark as friends. And there is some chemistry to that. But then later it was obviously like we were attracted to each other 4 years later.
It was like friendship spark and then I think physical spark, where there was physical chemistry. And that was when we started to embrace like, hey, this is more than just friendship. There might be something more here. And that began our journey of dating.
Well, I love it because, well, obviously the spark is something that you guys we all kind of like naturally want and desire. Now, how we define that spark, I think you guys just kind of hit on, right? Your version of the spark was mainly personality, emotional connection, friendship, and then the physical. Whereas maybe we see a little bit more hyperfixation on like that physical, right, sensation, that excitement of seeing that person and I've always really wondered like where that came from. But the most important thing I want to maybe highlight here is, so when you guys start dating, you have your version of the spark, which I actually think is probably one of the more healthy ones I've heard of.
Yeah. Because there was friendship and you guys knew each other and you already knew you could make each other laugh.
Yes. I did think he was good looking, but I was also like, and I probably thought I was good looking, but he was also like an entering freshman where there's going to be like 10,000 students on campus. So it's like nobody was like calling it. You know, it was like there's a lot of really pretty girls and cute guys. And so it's like you needed not just looks anyways. You're kind of like, who do I just like enjoy being around? And I don't know. College is a little different scene when it comes to the spark. Because you could have a different spark every day if somebody walks by in your class.
Totally. But for you guys, your relationship and dating started your senior year and when you were out of college, and then how long for after that?
Yeah, we dated 2 years, very seriously. And
because by then, we more knew exactly what we wanted. And we wanted the spark to be founded in friendship, and definitely attraction like needed to be there. Like that was not a negotiable. And I think we did have good physical chemistry too once we decided we were attracted to each other. And that has helped us in our marriage. It wasn't like we just had to like stumble through it and like reluctantly get through sex or something like that.
That would be an awful way to get through sex.
Right. No. Okay. So here's the first question. When did you first start having some of that conflict that inevitably comes out? And so for some people, it's in dating and relationships. Some people, it's like, oh my gosh, first month of marriage. When did that kind of start to be illuminated for you guys that you weren't married or dating a perfect person?
Yeah, it was in the dating. It was early in the dating relationship where we were both stumbling through what new commitment would be like. Because we'd come out of serious relationships. We'd kind of decided, let's not commit until we like know.
We don't want to be each other's rebound.
Yeah, let's take our time. Let's like make sure there's not other people. So it's kind of an awkward phase there, getting to the point where we finally committed. And I would say there was some conflict there because I'm thinking one thing, she's thinking the other. We're trying to not, we knew once we committed, this was probably going to be marriage. So it's kind of our last opportunity to be sure that like we were ready to step into commitment again. Because again, a broken engagement was such a traumatic thing to be at a deep level of commitment and then step back from. You didn't want to do that again to your best friend.
No.
And so I think that was probably our biggest moments of trying to process like, are we both ready for this?
Yeah. But once we were, and I really do think, let's just talk faith. Like God just had his hand on this in a way that I had like 3 boyfriends essentially, like in my lifetime that were somewhat like could have gone towards marriage. And every one, I would just be the one that would have all the doubts and like kind of call it. And with you, I just didn't. And like once we finally decided, I was like, there was one moment I was like, this is really happening. But like talking to you even through that, I was able to talk to you like, this is really happening. I've never gone past this like point of no return with somebody. Yeah, I was like, this is a little intimidating, but I just am certain about you. The Lord has made that clear. And that did help ease maybe like the insecurity with like, are we just going to do this again? But as far as conflict, we definitely had conflict like, I don't know, probably our first month of marriage because we're both very passionate people. And so that can be for harm or for good. And so, yeah, I remember our very first fight where I marched around the apartment complex, like saying not kind things about you under my breath.
And you did throw a Kraft single
I threw a piece of cheese at him.
That was in like month 1.
I was like,
but I would love to see that.
I knew it wouldn't hurt him.
Floppy cheese. Yeah. I dodged it.
It's better than like a plate or a mug.
It's not even real cheese.
It's like
now that I look back.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was like, I can throw this as hard as I want, and it's still like I won't regret it.
You won't have to clean it up.
There's some things that happened in our first months of marriage, which we won't name them.
A little bit more solid than Kraft cheese.
A little more fragile.
Yeah, sharp, and stuff.
No.
jagged
Has
edges.
a handle. No, just kidding.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I want to throw this question by you guys because we have seen so many couples date, and obviously you guys have kids, but you've also seen so many people, I think, at this point in dating and relationships. And so one thing that I have often told people who are really sold on more of an unhealthy, I would say, version of the spark, which is just like, they're kind of blinded to maybe the reality of who the person is because maybe they haven't given it very much time. It's like a few months and they're like, 3 months in, we're going to get married. And I'm like, do you know this person though at all? Right. Which I do think is more, you see that in the Christian culture than secular. It's very like, oh my gosh, we're for each other. We're going to get engaged really fast. So what happens, I've seen a lot, and I'm curious your thoughts, is usually these people, they maybe rush the process. It's just all infatuation. They may get to the end of their engagement. And we always say, if somebody asks them the question, like, does the other person have any issues or is there any like red flag at all in them? I say, if that person answers no, this person is perfect.
That's a no.
I would say that's actually the red flag itself. What would you guys think about that?
100%. Nobody's perfect. They just haven't got to that part of the relationship yet. Right. Because everything like we write about even in the book is like all about our origin stories. Like if those things have not surfaced yet in that relationship, anything that's unrepaired from their past will enter the reality of today. And a lot of times you can present your best foot in 3 months for sure. And I'm wondering like if maybe that time frame you see that's more common, is it because people are dating later so they're not having to wait to get through school or get on their feet with a job? Why do you think you're seeing them want to get married so fast?
I think it's usually because it's usually this idea of like, I'm going to botch what Paula says, but where it's like, hey, it's better to get married than burn with passion. So usually it's like, let me just stay pure. I found my person. I want to rush the process because this is it. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times I feel in that process, and you do see people that have fast timelines where it works out awesome. But usually, like I'm thinking of our friends Christian, Arden, Bevere, they had a pretty fast timeline. But they had, the Bevere family that was there who met them both early on, saw them together, like wise people in their life that really get to witness the couple and are like, yes, this is good to go. Yeah. Versus other couples where Scott Kadersha says this, he says, couples who submarine. They kind of meet each other. Everything's amazing. They kind of go underneath the surface and they
lose
like,
all their former lives.
And then they pop up and they're like, surprise. And people are like, oh, we're surprised.
Yeah, we're definitely shocked.
Well, yeah. And especially if you kind of give up your life for that person immediately and you lose like all your community or friends or passions or interests, like none of that's going to be lasting. I mean, that's not a sustainable thing.
I remember in college, one of our psych courses on marriage and family, the professor walked through the different stages of a relationship. And I'll never forget him just saying most divorces come from marriages that get married in this second stage, which was romance. And it was that season where everything's just wonderful. And maybe it's a long distance relationship and let's fly in and meet for the weekend or let's have dinner, let's go to a concert. But like everything's just magical and they get married. And they don't actually push through just the romance, the spark moment to go, do we have alignment? Because the marriages that stayed together were the marriages that got to the next stage, which was we have a common shared vision of the world and like what our purpose is in it. And I know for Rebekah and I, that was ultimately what helped us settle in on, hey, we're for each other. Like God uniquely, I don't think there's just one person for each person.
We believe the same.
But I do think when we found like, oh, we've got a similar vision of the future. We both are dreaming about similar things. We care about the same things. We're burdened by similar things. Like that kind of a purposeful, meaningful alignment meant, okay, this could work. And we'll be able to get through the hard times that are not romantic. Because as you know, marriage isn't romantic like a lot of the time, like 90% of the time.
Well, I don't know about your marriage, but I think, ours is
JJ, way to go, man.
Sunshine and rainbows all the time.
All the time.
Yes.
Guys, I hope you're enjoying this season Relationship Goals. It's been so fun to have incredible people speak into this area of relationships. I'm coming on here really quick to tell you about something we have coming up this November. November 2nd through 5th, we are hosting a 4-day free online conference. That's right, I said FREE. free, guys. It's going to be every single night, those 4 nights, starting at 7 o'clock to 8:30 Central Time, with a pre-show starting at 6:30 p.m. where there's going to be games and giveaways. Now, I'm bringing in some amazing speakers. It's going to be me and JJ, of course. Jamal Miller, who, if you don't know Jamal, he's been on the pod before. He is also a dating coach. He has the One University. He's a pastor and a speaker, a powerhouse. And then get this, guys, we are bringing in the one and only Lisa Bevere. I can't believe it. It's such an honor. And it's going to be such an incredible 4 nights at the Find Your Person Challenge. So I want you to come and sign up. We're going to have about 10,000 singles there. And the last time we did this, it was so good, so empowering. Even if you came the last time, come again, because it's going to be all new topics. I can't wait to see you there November 2nd through 5th. You can go ahead and sign up for free at heartofdating.com/challenge. We'll see you there.
Oh, so we talked about this right before we jumped on. So the honeymoon stage, right, of relationships is typically 12 to 18 months. It's kind of like the merry-go-round of dopamine is what they say. And at some point we get off the merry-go-round and we have to cross the bridge. And that's real love, right? That commitment of love when it doesn't feel good. So, and we joke all the time that our merry-go-round ended after 3 months, dating. So it was like...
fast track.
It was very fast tracked, right? It was very real because Kate went through depression and burnout, after month 3 of dating. So month 3 to 6 of dating for us wasn't quite romantic. It was much more of like a friendship supporting, really hard, difficult stage. Yeah. But my question for you guys is, that came out in the first month. What is maybe a really healthy, appropriate amount of time of dating and relationship to maybe experience some of that relationship and conflict? Should we experience that in dating and relationship before we get married? I know it just varies from couple to couple. Some people experience it the first month. We experience it in dating. Some people, it just varies, right, with everyone's timeline. But like you guys have kids that are dating, what would you tell them is a healthy amount of time to date, and how much conflict should you maybe try to experience in dating and relationship before you really sign up to do it for life?
Well, I know for us, it was 2 years before we even got engaged. And then we had a fast engagement because we lived long distance, and we're like, now we're ready. Yeah. So we kind of like started talking, and then by the time we got married, it was like a little over 2 years, 2 years, 3 months, because we had a 3-month engagement. And for both of our kids who are in serious relationships, both of them, once they had hit the 1-year mark, then things surface, right? Just in general, because just more stuff comes up. Yeah. And then that is the decision, like, are we going to double down and like advocate for one another, even though like we're both hurting right now or something isn't well? And how does God get in the middle of that and redeem that? Because that's beautiful. If you can experience that before you're married, you are well on your way to a more solid foundation.
Which is what, like, hardship and conflict, and introducing God in the middle of it. Even hurt. Even like we've counseled couples who've had some form of betrayal even in those early years before they even got married. And it's like, okay, what is the gospel true? And what does real repentance look like? And what does real deep forgiveness look like? If you can do that when you don't have to, if you're willing to fight optional,
for something when you could easily walk and it be justified, your marriage is well on its way to be forged, right? Yeah. So the maturity to do that when you're it's not being forced upon you at all, I think is like the more that kind of bubbles up before you get married, the better. In fact, our son and his fiance, they got free counseling at their university, their senior year. They just offered it to couples who were clinical counseling for anyone who was considering getting married. It's not even like they thought they needed it, but they offered it, and it was so helpful for them. They're like, wow, we didn't even know that some of these things should be discussed. And so I just am always encouraging, I think a 2-year window before you're really like getting to the depths of some origin story stuff where you feel safe and you're not feeling the shame to hide and kind of tell each other everything, because you don't want surprises after you're married. Like talk about the back, like stuff in the years past. Those things do need to surface before you get married. And can the relationship handle it? And if it can't handle it before you get married, it's going to be a lot harder, and it will likely continue into the marriage.
And practically, I think you want to see your partner under stress sometimes. You want to see them in different environments. How do they hang with friends and my parents and my family? And when they get to know the people that I've loved, it takes time for you to really get to the depths of someone and to really see who they are. And you need to see that so that you know personally, like, hey, I can hang with this. Like, this is going to work. Or whether, hey, I'm experiencing like some angst about this, like something's off. I don't feel, and we both, again, we dated for a long time and broke off relationships. And part of the breaking off was getting to the depths of ourselves with that person and having to make a decision. Like, I feel good about that. They're great people. We love them, and we've had a great dating relationship. But as I imagine the future, something's still not right. Something's still missing. That makes me sense that like there's not the perfect alignment that's gonna last, or I'm gonna always maybe be in a situation where I'm married and wondering, was there someone else?
Yeah, alignment is a big one because like both people went off and married somebody else and it was great. It's just that is our shared vision for what God has entrusted to us, how we see just him. So we would go on dates and we would literally write out our dreams like over ice cream because we couldn't afford anything like a real date. And we just had so much synergy even in that. So to have someone that you enjoy, you can be yourself with, you are attracted to, and you're like, wow, this would be really fun to do this together. Then all of a sudden you're kind of like, wow, that's a triple threat. Like if you can get through a couple years and you still feel that way, that's a good sign. There's something stable.
Well, we say this a lot. I mean, when you marry someone, you're marrying all of them. And oftentimes in dating, you see the best of them, right? Their best foot forward. I try to tell people you're also marrying the worst of that person. Yep. You really are. Yeah. And saying yes to it, right? Like that is what you're also saying yes to.
Yeah.
So what you guys are saying is it's really important. It's vital to see that worst side of them come out.
Yeah.
And conflict, their origin coming up and what parts have not been healed or touched. High pressure situations, grief, depression. Like you guys are saying that's probably one of the most important things that you can see in that 2-year process.
Yeah, because we believe and have experienced it and have watched it in other couples as well, that God gives us each other to be healing agents for one another. So that when these things bubble up, like my insecurity, like I don't really know how to love. Like I feel like I end every relationship, and having the freedom to tell Gabe that, like, I don't know if I've actually fully felt free to like not be afraid that this is going to not work out, and tell him that before we're engaged, or just whatever that is in the situation of the couple. There are things that have to be said that have probably never been said out loud to someone else. And when you can do that and it's met with grace and empathy and the gospel, then there's something really beautiful that's going to set the tone for your entire marriage.
That is so good. So there's probably going to be things that you've never said before out loud to anybody else that at some point in relationship and dating, obviously not the first date.
Right. Yeah.
Give it a few months.
Yeah. And committed relationship where you get to really test and see this person's, because I think we were talking about this. A lot of people today are emotionally aware or hyper aware of, what they're feeling, but that doesn't equate to emotionally healthy, which is the ability to also listen, serve, and be there for somebody else.
Right.
When they share.
Right. Yeah. And you're not going to necessarily, Rebekah's not saying you need to have all that healed before you get married. I mean, our journey of marriage has been healing constantly and growing. But it's the fact that you learn together, like, oh, this person, I'm safe with this person. Like they might not, they're not the one at this moment that can help me heal, but they're open to it. They're willing to like go down this path with me, and they're going to sit with me in the pain of what I'm trying to figure out. And I sense like that security. I think that's what you're looking for in the dating relationship, because you're going to keep growing for decades in your marriage.
Another key thing that needs to happen, sorry, I'm being bossy
now.
now.
I love it.
But everyone has like a story in their past they don't want to say out loud. There's like a shame situation that they're like, I know I'm going to need to tell this person at some point. I'd rather not. Yeah. Maybe it's something I used to struggle with or sometimes can flare up. I just don't want to go there, and because I'm scared if I do, the relationship will end. Yeah. But if you can't do that, like you actually won't experience the freedom that can come from the truth that sets you free. So our advice is always like you have to there cannot be a topic off limits if you're considering marriage, Because if there is, then there will always be toxic off limits in your marriage. There will be secrets in your marriage. And a marriage without trust will not last. It's not stable. So even people who are dating or getting serious, it's like there is no relationship without trust. And trust is I can come exactly as I am. I can tell you everything. And we just both together go before God and just seek reconciliation. And that's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy at all. But we were able to do that with one another. Like, I did some things I'm not proud of. You did some things you're not proud of. And we had to come and go like, I just want to make sure that like there's full disclosure here because we're about to become one.
Yeah. So we have, I mentioned earlier, this dating personality tool, which has been really helpful. There's 6 different types. And 4 of these types I just want to bring up right now. So if you are the lone wolf, the intentional romantic, the wanderer, or the overthinker, this applies to you. Those personality types usually tend to have pretty high expectations of the other person. And so, and sometimes have really hard time committing. Okay. So the hopeless romantic, this is not their issue. This is not my issue in dating. I like hyper committed right away. I was like, you are it to every person, probably not the right people, actually mostly not the right people all the time. But those 4 types usually have pretty high expectations, especially in today's culture. And I see, because I coach these people a lot, they will end up dating somebody and having such a long list. And then let's say it is a few months, maybe that person is on their best behavior. Then relationship happens and the commitment is there and conflict starts forming. And I think that's where people are like, oh, especially those 4 dating personality types, they're like, there could be something else out there, maybe just a little bit better. You know, I think that's where we get bought into this lie of like, if there's conflict and this person maybe is a little too unhealed or makes me uncomfortable because their trauma is kind of coming up, that means I got to run away. I do think there are some situations where it's like maybe this person you're dating is really unhealed and to a point of maybe they need to not be dating. But I think more often than not, we have people running away from relationships because the conflict seems too scary. And they're like, you hear it from guys, you have too many needs, you got too many feelings. And then from the women, they're just like, I just want a man to be more emotionally available, emotionally healthy, emotionally intelligent. That's all you can hear them say. So I'd love for you guys to respond to that a little bit.
Yeah. We should talk about the dance or anything.
Yeah. We describe in the book this dysfunctional dance that it happens in dating as at the beginning point, and then it moves into marriage. Like you don't necessarily get rid of this dance because it comes from really how you were raised and how you learned to deal with other people, how you dealt with your own feelings of guilt or that you didn't have enough to bring to the table. So the 4 are silent, avoidant, anxious, and intense. And those 4 have a root feeling behind them, a feeling of guilt or shame or hurt or anger that's driving that reaction. But what happens is for couples, they find themselves getting into this rhythm of a dance. They're stepping all over one another and they can't find their way through it because the dysfunction that's underneath those responses is what really needs healed.
Right. And when you said like, I need to get out of this because this conflict, I don't like what is happening to me. It's like, oh, both of you are having the dance. Like you're just more silent and that person's intense.
Right,
like,
exactly.
And that intensity is triggered by anger, whereas the silence is triggered usually by hurt. And so you're still like having this acute response to stress and discomfort. And it is always going to be retreat. Everyone retreats. Like one might retreat like and just start accusing, but like mentally and emotionally they've retreated. Or one might physically retreat. I retreat. I go in the closet and cry. That's not helpful. And so just recognizing like, I don't like what's happening in me when you do this thing. And it's not about that person. It's like the 2 of you have this dysfunctional dance and you're almost codependent on playing your part so the dance can continue. Because what people don't talk about a lot is that we do marry our emotional equivalent. It just might not present the same. One person might go, how
do you think about that?
my trauma and my view of the world, like the way Gabe looked like he was like smelling like roses when we got married because he was cool, calm, collected, stoic, everything. A friend to everyone, best friend to everyone. And I'm like emotive and crying. And
yes, you and I are the same.
Exactly. And he's like, wow, she really had a hard childhood, whatever. And then now that 28 years later, he's like, wow, I've learned a lot because I couldn't hide mine.
Same. Yep.
Because it was more public. It was more just I couldn't control it. And so that forced me to do work sooner than he did because he was able to manage it. Mm-hmm. And yet over time, he's like, I don't even know what I feel. I don't even know how to meet you here. I give you a blank stare when you like ask me like why I can't be there present for you emotionally. And so it's like he had to go on the same journey I did. It just came later and looked different. But we both were, one counselor said, emotional orphans who found each other. And so it's just like whatever that looks like. It's so that way we don't have to have contempt or think we're superior to the other person because we present better publicly, maybe.
That's it.
It's like, no, we're still just as scared and insecure deep down. We're just not going to show it.
Yeah. So is that what you're talking about? The silent and avoidant, maybe?
Yeah.
So like the person who maybe doesn't show anything or avoids it.
Yes.
Right.
So the avoidant is usually triggered by guilt.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't do anything to make her happy. I'm going to get, scolded because I didn't do this right or that right or didn't do it well. I'm just going to kind of avoid any like conflict. It doesn't mean that you aren't resentful, that you aren't, you aren't feeling the anxious is triggered by fear, right?
Yeah.
Fear of abandonment, fear of just betrayal, something like that, fear of security. And then what was the other one? I'm sorry.
Silent and intense.
Triggered by anger, right? Yes. And so everyone's going to play out in a way that's more dominant to your personality, but the roots behind it all is still the same.
Like some people, you see marriages that end up in divorce and you're like, they never fought. Or the kids are like, we didn't see our parents fight. Well, there was deep resentment there, but they had just learned, they were both silent. They just learned like, we're not going to engage it. We're not going to deal with it. We're not going to confess it, repent, heal. We're just going to go harbor this.
Yeah. And live separate lives, right? Like just kind of like get through it. And then when the kids leave, we have nothing to stand on.
Right. They're just kind of roommates in the same house. I mean, I remember growing up reading a marriage study. It always stuck with me through the years. I mean, conflict oriented or passive, oriented. And they said conflict and conflict oriented works because everything's going to be talked about and it might be a slugfest, but it's getting worked out.
It's true.
Conflict and avoidant, it's fine because at least one person is bringing it up. The avoidant and avoidant, or the silence, the most dangerous one because things for years can just be swept underneath the rug. Yeah. And that's the most dangerous of all because you can breed contempt. I think you guys mentioned that word quite a bit. And Gottman's really big. He says that's the relational killer and poison of relationship is contempt's the number one predictor of divorce and relationships.
Yeah. So with those 4 conflict patterns, I love it. The silent, intense, anxious, and avoidant. Would you say that actually all 4 in any combination could work together?
So we have a quiz where everyone can identify. It's called What's Your Dance? So we'll give you the code for that. And of the thousands who have done it, the top one is intense and the second one is silent. Which is so funny because it's like everyone is in the extremes, right? Because we're like, I'm either going to explode or I'm just going to silent treatment this thing because this is how I'm going to. And it just shows so much of a personality. And so, yes, you can have both of you, like we both score intense. And then one time we did it, you scored silent because you're like, I think I say silent and then I just go boom. So it's really kind of even the timing. The timing of it.
I prefer to escape, but then if you corner me, the intensity comes out. Yeah.
Yes.
I say men de-escalate to just keep the peace. Like we're feeling it, but we emotionally, our heart rate stays pretty steady and we de-escalate conflict because we don't want it to go, the wrong direction. Right. But when women start to stonewall and they start to turn their heart off, it's a much greater tragedy because they don't often know how to turn their heart back on once they've decided to turn their heart off. So there's a lot of men out there who don't realize like their wives are still maybe getting their groceries, serving them meals.
Being pleasant.
Yeah, being nice when they get home. Mm-hmm. But there's a moment where that hammer's about to drop because in their heart, there's a lot of contempt. They really do think they're better than their husband. They've kind of started to believe that accusation. I know we've gone through that where in relationships, the enemy's number one tool is to make an accusation and get you to agree with it. So, he'll say to me, hey, Rebekah's ridiculous. Like other wives would be so thankful that you were their husband.
Right.
Right, JJ?
Right, exactly. I know that one a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so these little accusations, right?
Yeah.
Or Rebekah.
You're the most loving person ever.
I'm sure one of her accusations is like, I'm sure there's a man out there that would love to just listen to me, just sit on the couch and listen to me for an hour and not look at his phone and be so looking in my eyes. And right. And then if you make agreement with that, you start to align and create really a divide that may not get repaired. And so we have to be very aware that these accusations are coming at us every day. The enemy's always looking for these ways to get you to agree with something about your spouse that's not true. So we have to constantly reset and come back to
it begins with resignation. Like, I don't think it's like, it is what it is. And then it turns into that, at least in my history, and we talk about in this book, it goes from it is what it is to I don't think I can do this. It's slow, it's subtle, it feels justified. And you almost can build up a whole case in your head with the enemy of like, all the ways in which Gabe is the worst. And it's wild. It's wild how it can be reinforced because you're not talking about it, right? Yeah. And so those thoughts just keep ruminating. They become toxic. They become like ungodly. And yet for some reason, a lot of people in their marriages are like, hey, I mean, there's just no other option. Yeah. You know, and there's not infidelity. There wasn't actually a root cause. It was just that over time, you started to build a case against your spouse.
Guys, if you have not heard of our mentorship program, the School of Dating, what are you even doing? We host the School of Dating mentorship program just a few times a year. And why do we only do it a few times a year? Because it's taught live. It's 16 sessions. It's intensive work. We go in deep, and it's going to change your dating life. We are on our 10th cohort at this point, and we have over 500 alumni. Actually, fun fact, a lot of our alumni are dating. But the cool news is, after doing this for almost 4 years, we now have so many people who have met their person through doing School of Dating. We even have a School of Dating baby, at least one that I know of, which is so exciting. And so our next cohort is starting this November. November 11th is the first session of class. And right now, you can sign up for School of Dating at our early bird pricing at the website if you go to joinschoolofdating.com. On the website, we have all the information. We have the full schedule so you can see all the details. We have testimonials so you can see how people have loved this program. And I also just want you to know, if you sign up to do this, it's an investment in yourself, but you are getting so much. You're getting me and JJ live in real time teaching you this program. You are getting an assigned coach, a dating coach that helps you throughout the entire process. And you're getting a community of men and women doing this alongside of you. And that community is so powerful and so transformative. So I want to invite you to this next cohort. It is going to be amazing. I can't wait to see the transformation that happens. So again, visit joinschoolofdating.com. And if you have a question, you can book a call with JJ. That's also on the website, and he's happy to chat with you. All right. Hope to see you in the program.
Why does this not maybe surface in dating and relationship? Like, it's very much pops up in marriage, right? When you're almost stuck with someone. But I am curious, you're in relationship, right? And dating, and like a year or two in, it just seems like it's much easier to not believe those accusations, to have them. Like there's just something about the process of dating where you're not committed, where these
that's it.
Accusations are not.
Well, because you can resent the fact that you're stuck with someone and you can't leave. At least you don't feel like you have grounds for it, even as a Christian, based on like, I don't really have a real healthy reason as to why I have permission to do this. So you almost begin to resent that you feel trapped, that other person may not be willing to change. It is what it is. There are a lot of marriages that don't do the work, and they just resign to like, we're going to stay together for the kids. Financially, it makes more sense to stay together. We might sleep in separate bedrooms. Like, they've both given up. And yet they're kind of doing publicly like the right thing, but it's not. So when you're dating though, you can be like, I'm out. Like, we're bye. You know, like you don't have to stay. So there's not this pressure to be resentful.
And dating's a season of so much hope. I mean, you even when you go through some challenges, you're like, oh, and you have this myth of progress in your mind, like things will just keep getting better. Like
there's
they're good
optimism,
now. Yeah, like it's going to get better. And I think once you're in marriage for a little while and you're like, man, this is hard. Like you start to lose hope. And once you lose hope and vision, you're susceptible to all kinds of lies. You start to believe things that aren't helpful to helping you find that hope again. And that's a lot of our story was during these different seasons, it's finding our way back to one another and learning how to repair those places where we bought the lie and we believe the enemy. And we started to think maybe we are better off alone, or maybe we'll just do our own separate things here and not work or do the work that's going to allow us to experience something more. And I think a lot of couples sit in that place. They don't have hope that their marriage could be any better. They're like, this is kind of as good as it gets. We're just going to kind of make it, stay together for the kids.
Yeah.
And when they feel trapped, they start to build a case.
Well, there's that lens. So here's what I'm thinking. There's like my hypothesis. Because I heard a divorce lawyer talking about this one time in the Gottman and what you guys talk about, that C word, contempt. That lens in which you view your spouse is negative. Mm-hmm. You start to kind of see all the things you dislike about them.
Yes.
That's the only filter you're looking at them. It is just a constant filter of what annoys me, what I don't like about them. And in dating, that's not the filter.
No,
it's the complete opposite. You only see the most redeeming, amazing, good parts about them. Almost to our discussion today is like to a fault.
Right.
You don't see those negatives. So there's that that pure gift of optimism and seeing the things that you really love about them. Yeah. And then
one thing the lie I bought was it was a little bit like these are the things about Gabe that irritate me, but I think I started by the lie that like we're just different in so many ways. Like we don't see this the same or this the same, or I don't want like this and you love this and I don't want to do that. And I don't know how I built that case, but when we did an intensive with our counselor, I just started to go, why? He's like, what are the things that you guys are united on? And all of a sudden I'm naming like big things, like the most important things. I'm like, everything essential in life, like our love of God, our commitment to our family, our devotion to our community. I was like, we all mutually feel the same. And yet I'm talking about the little things of preferences and letting that be the big thing. Yeah. And so it's weird how the distortion could kind of trip you up, and then it just continues to grow. And the minute I confess it, the minute I'm like, I literally have just had this whole thing in my head, and I'm crying, and I'm apologizing, and I'm repenting, then it's done, But we can nurse that internally for years if we're not careful.
I have this anecdote really quick I want to share with you guys. I can't get this person out of my head. So years ago, we had a friend dating a guy, and they had some conflict come up. Maybe they were dating for 6 months, 7 months, something like that. And she tends to lean probably more intense or anxious, I would say, in the conflict style. But eventually he broke up with her. And his main reason was like he had a brother who was married, and that couple seemingly had no fights ever. They were married for I don't know how long. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe they were actually silent and avoidant, potentially. Or maybe they just have less trauma in their past. Mm-hmm. And maybe they are just more easygoing, very similar personality type people, which does happen. And you sometimes see that. We have a few friends where like they're just so similar and they have pretty easy backgrounds that there's just a little bit less conflict.
They're just more compatible.
Yeah,
in general.
more compatible. But so this guy is like, I'm just looking for that specifically. I want to be with someone where I'm just going to have that exact kind of relationship with like very low maintenance, no conflict. And I just think that's a very slippery slope, and where a lot of people want to land is I want to be with this person where it's going to be the most low maintenance as possible.
Yeah.
But I think that you can make it work with a lot of different kinds of conflict styles.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, we agree. In fact, one of our friends reminded us after we wrote this book, it was one of our best friends in college, and we were together a few months ago, and he said, do you remember that time in college when I gave you guys this assessment? He was studying to be a marriage counselor, and I didn't remember it at all. And he goes, no, I just remember you and Rebekah took this assessment. I looked at it, and you guys were completely incompatible. He goes, I took it to my professor. My professor looked at it and he goes,
this.
Yeah, my professor's like, this probably isn't a good idea. And I'm glad we didn't remember that because
he goes, I showed it to you guys and you just laughed. And I was like, oh, okay.
It just kind of proved the point that like, the assessments, all those, I mean, they're helpful, right? We learn about each other. But the point is like any couple can find their way through this together. And I do think in dating, one of the reasons maybe in dating people don't experience some of this conflict is in the back of their mind, they're like, I think the things I don't love about this person are going to change. They're going to become more like me, right? We start to buy that I'm going to
I've never thought that before.
I'm going to train them up into my direction and just give me some time. And the dilemma is after 3-5 years, you go, wait a second, they're not conforming to my ways. I haven't transformed them to be just like me.
Yeah.
And in
I'm
dating,
not Jesus, I'm not the Holy Spirit.
And in dating, to just understand that, look, part of the beauty of marriage is to recognize like they're not going to ever be like you. You're going to be two different people with two different, preferences, ways of doing life, ways of thinking about things. And the beauty of marriage is learning how to together embrace that there's difference, respect the difference, learn to live with one another amongst the difference, and to appreciate the difference, to understand that God's actually given us different strengths that could constantly keep us in conflict. Or we can embrace like, oh, wow, we have different personalities. We have different ways we handle things. And let's like learn how to build on the strengths versus let those differences cause us to be divided.
Yeah. And when you said they avoid, like they want the relationships that's going to be the least resistance, let's just be honest. Like you could have the most compatible relationship and enjoy everything about each other and never fight. And still, year 1, 2, 3, no matter what, like there will be hardship in your marriage. We did not expect a special needs son 3 years in. There's a lot of people who can't get pregnant. There are a lot of people who have pain with chronic pain or mental health. Like nothing's like just phoned in. Like there's no guarantees.
Yes. Exactly.
So if you're going to say yes to covenant, you're saying in sickness and in health, right?
Yes.
As long as we both shall live, this idea of like the whole point is like you will have the good and the bad, the easy and the hard, the trial and the celebration. Like that's normal. That's called life. So you're not going to be able to avoid it. It will be nice if you like each other. It'll make it a little easier, but you'll still be faced with the choice to turn toward each other or resent each other.
Yeah. That's what I love in the beginning of your story, just to wrap up, that you guys had that friendship piece. I think that is so essential at the bottom of a relationship, like having a friendship and knowing that you actually, at the end of the day, enjoy that person, even if they're very different from you. Because this guy and I could not have more opposite parts, but we at the same time enjoy each other, even though I haven't come quite over to the golf world yet. But maybe one of these days. One of these days. So, okay, you guys have a book too, The Fight for Us, right? Just where can they find it? If these are singles or people in relationship, I think this is a great book for them to start preparing for marriage right now.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find it Amazon or anywhere books are sold. RebekahLyons.com. We have the quiz, like what's your dance? If you want to do that, that'll be easy to find.
Yes,
and that'll get you talking about like, because you'll get your results really like immediately once you finish, and then even just if you have different results, you can talk about that together and like some tips and pointers on how to engage. Because part of that is like, I only know my dance. I'm not sure another way to do this.
Yeah.
We were sharing with some couples and singles last night about marriage. And afterwards, 2 of the single guys came up and said, this was so helpful. Like, I feel like I got so much perspective on how I need to be preparing for marriage. And when I'm dating, what's going to be important to try to process through. One of the things in the book we do is at the end of each chapter, there's conversations for couples. Good. And I would say those couple conversations for a dating relationship would be beautiful because it helps you unpack some of these things that sometimes just come too late in the relationship, in terms of what Rebekah was describing. The more you can understand some of the areas that are going to create some trauma, the origin stories early, it might help you in the dating relationship go, well, this isn't going to work. It might expose some things that you wouldn't have known. And
we are using them when we do premarital counseling.
We're it's a great idea.
We got to start this now. Yeah, let's talk about it.
It's great. Well, thank you guys so much. We have so much love and respect for you too. So thank you for hopping on the podcast today and sharing.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys. The Heart of Dating podcast is created by Kate and JJ Tomlin. Shout out to our epic audio and video editor, Scott Caro. We have an amazing Heart of Dating team who helps bring this show to you each week. I want to shout out Elena Gibson, our brand and community manager. We couldn't do it without them. Now, if you guys have never ranked us or reviewed us on iTunes or Spotify, would you consider doing that? It would mean so much because our podcast can get more discovered and more people can learn how to better date as Christians. Don't we all want that? We launch our podcast each and every week on Wednesdays, so we will see you next week.